Welcome into another episode of Betting the Pitch. I'm your host, the real_G Warner. Whether you're listening or watching on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. If you're on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, please leave a 5-star review. It gets me up there in the search column, and I would really appreciate that. We're going to go through the top 5 European soccer leagues. It's been a hell of a week so far. Not much time to breathe, but busy times call for lots of podcasts, and that's what we're doing. I've had fun this week. I feel like I had a really good Champions League run, not so great on the Europa League yesterday, but unfortunately, handballs that are allowed for goals are really problematic for me. And I got to say, the rules are sometimes so ridiculous, but we'll leave that to the side. I'm going to start, as always, in the Premier League, but all lines quoted in this podcast are courtesy of betonline.ag, my favorite place to get my bets down early. Just going to make sure that my audio is correct. Looks like it is. Okay, my bad. My favorite place to get my bets down early. Please follow the link found in this podcast description below to fund your account and use your promo code GW50 to receive a 50% match bonus up to $1,000. So, going to get started where the money is, and that's where the Premier League drops. There are a bunch of matches midweek next week as well because there's no Europe. But we're going to stick with just this weekend's Premier League play. So starting with Bournemouth hosting Liverpool. Currently Bournemouth a 1.25 goal underdog at home. Over under is 3, juice the under pretty heavily. Liverpool are a really tough team to predict right now. Coming off a 7-0 victory over Manchester United. I doubt we'll see 7, but Bournemouth certainly are one of the worst teams in the Premier League that could be victimized by something like that. I think the strongest lean for me in this one is under 3, though it takes a lot to really trust Bournemouth at this point. They're going to be defending the whole time, trying to counterattack. Anytime they do counterattack and extend their defense, they're at risk of being punctured. I doubt that Liverpool will have the same type of performance. I feel like a 7-0 victory is great for their confidence. It's important, but they do have their second leg at Real Madrid looming next week. So I guess there are European matches next week, excuse me. But the Premier League, everyone that's not playing in Champions League, Europa League is probably playing based on their schedule and how many matches they cancel for the Queen's death. But if you've listened to this podcast since the fall, you probably have heard more than enough about this. So maybe Liverpool, I mean, they're down 5-2 on aggregate. So maybe they should be playing a full lineup because every dollar matters and every round you advance in Champions League does matter. I feel like they're going to start their best and then see how long they need to keep them on the pitch and might play them 90 minutes, knowing that it's very unlikely they go through. So that's not great if you're Bournemouth. They played really well last weekend, taking a 2-0 lead at Arsenal, but ultimately capitulated and conceded a late winner to Reece Nelson. Brutal. And unfortunately for a team that's fighting relegation, it's hard to know how they get off the mat. So might be under 3, might probably skip that one if I'm honest. Everton then hosts Brentford, a pick 'em right now. Everton with slightly more juice at home. Over unders 2.25, pretty much split juice evenly there. I don't believe in Everton. I don't know how they score goals. Idrissa Gana Gueye in midfield just is not capable. I don't think he was completely at fault for the 2 goals against Arsenal that then broke the dam or broke the camel's back, but he just looks so lost in a place where he needs to defend, coming over from, I want to say, Marseille. Unfortunately, he's a good player, but is an attacking one and doesn't really fit in the Everton side that needs to defend every second. I'm looking for Brentford. I figured they'd be a road favorite here, despite the Everton crowd. They've been playing great. I don't know the status of Ivan Toney. Maybe his suspension is finally hit. Who knows? It seems like something that's been lingering for a while, but every time I see a lineup, he seems to be in it. So I'm going to trust that he's in it until I see otherwise. In terms of over-unders here, I think under 2.25 is interesting because Everton don't score and they want to make this game as physical and low scoring as possible. With that said, I think the caution that I would have is that Brentford has scored a ton of goals. A lot led by Ivan Toney, who also should have been sent off last weekend, but or last Monday, but that was missed, of course, because referees just really can't do their job. But I think Everton are so unlikely to score. They're probably going to play well at home with their home crowd behind them. I just don't know, like, how does Everton help this match go over? I mean, they get a goal and a set piece. That's probably the best case scenario. I think goalless is a very likely scenario here, considering how unlikely it is in most matches. So under 2.25 looks the best to me in this one. Leeds then hosts Brighton. Leeds a half a goal underdog at home. Over unders 2.5. Juice to the over. Leeds have shown really nothing offensively under this new manager. I feel like they're going to be as defensive as they can be, which is a huge change from what they have been previously. Feels like Leeds as a half a goal underdog is a little bit bigger than it should be to Brighton. Brighton have been awesome this season. I think a lot of people are, including myself, are expecting them to come back down to earth. Hasn't happened yet. Maybe it will. Maybe it does here, especially against a really tough Leeds crowd. But Leeds are in the relegation spat, and that is going to affect their goal scoring. It's also going to affect their defending and probably going to send them into more dangerous challenges than they need to take, which does increase the risk of red cards. And if Leeds are down to 10 men, I think they're in big trouble here. This is going to be a huge environment for them and a huge match for them to try to stay in the league. I think Brighton are one of those teams that are not as strong as their table standing suggests they are. And I think they're kind of ripe for the picking a little bit, but it hasn't stopped them. They've still been playing really well. I don't know that Leeds are a team I expect to really take advantage of that, but I think my strongest lean here is to the under 2.5. Brighton have scored a bunch of goals this year, and I just don't really know that they can keep doing it. Roberto De Zerbi is an offensive manager, but he's kind of played the same Brighton's Graham Potter way. And I don't know that necessarily that's going to keep happening, that the goals are going to keep flowing for Brighton. Next, I'll move to Leicester hosting Chelsea. Leicester, a half a goal underdog at home, over unders 2.5, juice to the under. Leicester are in a pretty good spot to catch Chelsea after celebrating an advance against Borussia Dortmund. 2 goals off of a Chelsea whiff that then fell right perfectly to Raheem Sterling, and then 2 tries at a penalty kick. I mean, it's a comedy how hard it is for Chelsea to score. They need every chance right in front of the pitch, or right in front of the net, wide open, and they're probably not going to convert most of those. So it's kind of incredible. Maybe they've changed course because they've won 2 matches in a row. I don't think they have. And the problem is, if you're backing Leicester, you're backing that defense, which I think has improved a lot since the beginning of the year, basically bringing in new bodies. And Wout Faes has been great. The Australian they brought in, whatever his name is, has been good too. Anything to get away from Daniel Marte seems like a really good idea. And Johnny Evans hasn't been healthy for a long time. I think his age has caught up to him. With that said, the Leicester offense has not been very good lately. And that's a big problem, especially because they're only half a goal underdog. Yes, at home, that's big. They score a lot more at home than they do on the road, to say the least. You can not ever stop hearing that annoying cricket mobile song here in the US playing every time they score. Whenever I think of Leicester playing at home, that's what comes through my head. Maybe I'm sick, probably am. But I got to say, I don't really expect Chelsea as a worthy road favorite here, coming off a midweek celebration that kept Graham Potter's job. And as far as I know, I don't think I've heard of him getting sacked, and it'd be weird if they did it after he got through in Champions League, considering they've been holding on to him for so long. But I lean to Leicester getting that half of a goal for sure. It's very juiced right now at the moment at Bet Online. We'll see if it climbs or falls potentially. But I think it probably sticks here. Even then, at a quarter of a goal, I'm still interested in the home dog. I think they can win. And I like under 2.5 because I don't think Chelsea, as the road favorite, is likely to score much. Tottenham then hosts Nottingham Forest. Currently Tottenham a 1.25 goal favorite. Over under is 2.5. Juice to the over. More juice on Nottingham Forest right now. And I got to say, I'm interested in Forest. They've had some really tough capitulations, especially I'm thinking of the West Ham match a couple weeks ago. Things were going great through 70 minutes, and I think on 77 they were down 4-0. Incredible. At least 3-0. But in this reverse fixture, I think I bet Nottingham Forest and felt like they outplayed Tottenham for a lot of the match, yet Tottenham was a 1.25 goal favorite on the road there. Here, now only 1.25 goal favorite at home, coming off a Champions League disappointment, getting knocked out. And I think you could certainly see it. I mean, they talked about it for an entire segment afterwards on US TV about Harry Kane having to leave and going to Manchester United. I don't know that he's in a great headspace. Richarlison saying that Antonio Conte is a clown, basically, in his own type of way, was kind of hilarious, saying he was lied to about starting. There are some problems in that dressing room. They're sitting in a Champions League place, but no one would think that they deserve it if you watch any Spurs football this year. I think the under 2.5 with getting odds right now, I don't know where that comes from. I got to say, I'm interested also in Nottingham Forest hanging around, getting more than a goal. Though I think that's probably a little bit less likely to make my card than the under. I mean, where is this game going to get 3 goals? That's my biggest question. It's going to come from penalty spots, big mistakes, red cards. I mean, those are low probability events. So I like under the most there. Crystal Palace and host Manchester City in the nightcap on Saturday. Currently, Crystal Palace, a 1.5 goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over under is 2.75, pretty heavily juiced to the under. Man City has Red Bull Leipzig coming in at home in Champions League midweek. They're in a 1-1 aggregate, so they got to be focused on that one. That's probably their number one trophy that they're looking for, though clearly they're trying to win the Premier League as well. Going on the road to Crystal Palace used to be a really scary thing. It hasn't been so much this season. Home crowd's still there, but Crystal Palace just feels like they can't score goals, and that's a big problem. Don't really know that I like them. 1.5 at home is a gigantic number. Yes, it's very juiced, and maybe it falls to 1.25, but I don't really think it does. I just don't know that I can trust them to score. I think we all know that Man City will score. It just a matter of how many. Under 2.75 looks interesting if the home team can't score, but also if it gets ugly. Unfortunately, I think the home team's defense will fall away. So if anything, I'll lean under 2.75 on that one, but it's not really a strong lean at this point, I don't think. Moving to Sunday, we have Manchester United hosting Southampton, coming off a really good bounce back performance against Real Betis in the Europa League. Currently, Manchester United, a 1.5 goal favorite right now. All the juice on Southampton, a little bit surprisingly. Over under is 3, juice the under. Same total that Real Betis had, who, I mean, got a ridiculous goal off a handball, unfortunately. And that, I think, changed the total result. For me and anyone who followed, which was very frustrating. But Manchester United with a small blip, not playing well against Liverpool, and then one led to another. And I mean, a 7-0 embarrassment is hard to explain, but certainly once you're out of the match, I think a lot of the care seemed to go out of Manchester United, and we'll see. Goal differential doesn't seem to matter too much to a lot of these teams in league play, but like it does in international stuff. Anyway, Southampton, relegation fodder, very unlikely to stay up in this league. They're a young team that's trying to be attackers, but they're not good enough there. They don't defend very well. Not a situation I want to get involved in, nor on the side, nor the under. Fulham then hosts Arsenal in a nice London derby. Fulham, a 1-goal underdog at home, which is gigantic. Very juiced on the Fulham side. Over under is also juiced the over at 2.5. Fulham with a setback midweek, fought back to 3-2. I felt like, I mean, should have been 11 versus 10 at halftime, but unfortunately, I guess you can get stomped on the face and it'd be fine to Premier League referees. Arsenal, I still feel like they're feeling the pressure of leading the Premier League. Had to play midweek against Sporting, I believe in Lisboa or Lisbon, and that was a tough match for them. Take some legs out. They rotated a fair amount, but not a ton. And I feel like Fulham with that 1 goal of insurance is not a number I'm going to be able to look past. So I'm going to watch to make sure I don't lose the +1, but I'm very interested there. I feel like the Fulham defense is really underrated. I think it's a lot better than people think. And I think at that +1, I really like it. I guess I lean to under 2.5 as well, because I just don't think Arsenal will score as much. But I think I'm more interested in the +1 than anything there. Next, we'll have West Ham hosting Aston Villa. We have a lot of Sunday matches this week, apparently. And that is West Ham hosting Aston Villa. Currently, West Ham a 1/4 goal favorite at home right now. Over under is 2.5. Juice the under. I don't really understand why we're trusting West Ham or expecting or spread requiring them to win a match. So I lean to Villa getting a 1/4 goal, though they certainly have had some defensive problems, to say the least, this season. I think Unai Emery is working on those every day in training, but hasn't certainly taken just yet. Also, I think and the stronger lean will be to under 2.5, as I just don't think either of these two teams are reliable to score. I think West Ham they're in a relegation fight. They're going to do the best they can to restrict Aston Villa from scoring. That's going to hurt their offense, and I think that helps the under more than anything. Newcastle then hosts Wolves in the last one on Sunday. Newcastle currently 3/4 goal favorite, very juiced right now, potentially climbing to a full 1, which would feel very high to me. Over-unders 2.25, juice to the over. I don't really agree with either of those. I think Wolves getting 3/4 of goal is of interest. I think under 2.5 or under 2.25 is even more interest. It could climb to 2.5, but certainly don't have that just yet. I gotta say, I don't know where Newcastle has kind of fallen off. Their goal scoring has not been anywhere to be found lately. Their defense has looked a little bit worse. They've had some injuries with Fabian Schär with his concussion. I expect he'll probably be back for this matchup, but Wolves are going to press them pretty hard. They're going to be physical. I think Newcastle plays the same game. Does worry me a little bit about cards here, potentially red cards or sent offs, all those sort of things. But I don't think either of these offenses are to be relied upon. I think their defenses are far better. And at under 2.25, I think is my strongest lean in that one. For my best bet for this, I guess for the ultimate best bet, I'm going to do end of show. Also, I'm going to give a pregame.com promo code before I forget. Make sure I do that before the end of the show as well. But I'm going to go with under 2.5 in the Nottingham Forest visiting Tottenham match. I just don't think that there's goals in that one, and I don't think the setups are going to be good for goals either. Now I'll move to Spanish La Liga. We have a Friday match here, and that is Cadiz hosting Getafe. Currently, I'm not sure that I'm a huge believer in Cadiz and their turnaround, though they've been better. They've added some players that I think are pretty important, but at the same time, it's a little weird. I guess I'll get into the line now. Currently seeing Cadiz a 1/4 goal favorite, but it's very juiced on the Getafe side and was very juiced last night. It's only getting more juice. So I imagine this one will probably go off as pick'em. Though Cadiz is very juiced at pick'em. So we'll see. Probably depends on some lineup swings to see where the number goes. Over under is 1 3/4, juice to the under, because there's not a lot of goals expected. I think the strongest lean for me in this one is Getafe getting a 1/4. That's not even really a realistic scenario, but paying minus 134, you're going to have to hit a really high rate to be profitable in this sport. Moving to Saturday, Real Madrid hosting Espanyol, rare early match for Real Madrid. We'll see how that affects their preparation. Playing, I believe, at 1 p.m. local time, very early on the Spanish calendar. But Real Madrid are certainly trying to get ready for that Liverpool match coming up, and really they've got a huge lead, so they shouldn't have to worry too much about it. Though I imagine, if anything, they're probably conserving defenders more so than attackers, especially because they need 3 points to kind of get back into the race with Barcelona. Espanyol visit. They're a 1 3/4 goal underdog. Pretty juiced right now. Over under is 3, also juiced to the under. I think I'm most interested in under 3 in this one, as I think Espanyol, their offense hasn't really done a lot lately. They've been scoring a fair amount lately, I guess I should say, but I don't really believe that's repeatable. Their defense is they're a low budget club that recently came up from the Segunda División, and ultimately they are trying their best to stay in the league. Real Madrid just haven't really looked good for a long time. Besides the 5 goals in a row, consecutive goals that they put up on Liverpool after falling 2 behind, which is still not good on the road. After that, I think some of the juice came back to Real Madrid, like they're good again, but then goalless at Real Betis last weekend, which is really hard for Real Betis to do considering how many goals are going in, as we saw with the Manchester United matchup, conceding 4 yesterday. It's hard to really trust in Real Madrid whatsoever there. I think I lean to the 1 3/4 as well. It's just hard to see Real Madrid scoring a bunch of goals right now. Correlated certainly the Espanyol plus 1 3/4 as well as the under 3. Next we'll go Elche hosting Real Valladolid. Currently a pick'em. Juice split both ways. Over under 2 1/4, slightly juice the over, which is a little bit surprising. Elche just are not really a good enough team. I mean, they're so far adrift in the Liga relegation that They're fighting and they're trying hard, but I don't really see a lot there. It seems like it's almost a lost cause, but they do have matches left, so they're not fully dead yet. They said they're fighting until they're dead, at least in post-game press conferences. Real Valladolid, on the other hand, are fighting relegation, have kind of had a dip in form, but had a really good start coming out of the World Cup break, did some big business, brought in Darwin Machis, who's been unfortunately injured lately, but he's just a La Liga superstar that can't seem to ever latch on anywhere full time. I think Granada's financial problems were a big reason for him potentially moving the MLS into Charlotte, I believe, but he's back. We'll see if he's available for this one. If he's not, that impairs the Valladolid offense quite a bit. I don't see where there's 3 goals coming from in this matchup. It's certainly a relegation 6-pointer, and there's going to be a lot of nerves involved, and probably some too aggressive tackles that could be red card related or inducing. But I don't see offense in this matchup at all, really. And so I think under 2.25 seems pretty high to me. Celta de Vigo then hosts Rayo Vallecano. Currently Celta a quarter goal favorite at home, very juiced right now, potentially climbing to a half of a goal. Over under right now is under 2.25, very juicy under. Looks like that's going to fall to 2. I think of the things I'm most interested in this one, Rayo Vallecano as a road team hasn't had a great ton of success, at least a couple seasons ago. I think it's been better this year. They're still the counterattacking side with a bunch of pesky small defenders that really use their pace on the break and are really kind of clinical from outside the box, which you can't say about a lot of attackers or players across all of Europe. I really like Rayo getting a quarter, especially getting odds there. I think I'm going to wait to see if this hits a half. That'll probably be on my list as a definite play. Lean to under 2.25 as well. It looks like that's falling to a 2 though, and I feel like I'm less interested in betting any sort of total that's not below, or it's not above 2, because it's so hard with VAR and how many mistakes happen in these matches for games to finish 1-0, 0-0, or to finish on 2 and you end up getting you just get your money back and not winning anything. The nightcap Saturday, Valencia hosting Osasuna. Currently Valencia a quarter goal favorite, very juiced right now. Over under is 2, juiced to the over. Another relegation side, Valencia, who are a really proud club, but they have been bad. Their management has been bad. Everything has been bad, essentially. Osasuna certainly is looking ahead to Copa del Rey, but I think they have a little bit of time before that comes back. I think it's in April, actually, so they got plenty of time. Their offense hasn't been doing much, but their defense has been good. They've been kind of playing a makeshift right back in Moncayola, who's now essentially their right back and is playing pretty well. Former midfielder. I'm not sure if he'll ever go back, but I lean to Osasuna getting that quarter of a goal. Would love if it climbs to a half. I'm not really worried about Mestalla being a supportive venue for Valencia at this point. I think they're sometimes doing more harm than good, despite getting the quarter goal extra for playing at home. I feel like it's not deserved at this point. Lean to under 2 as well, but like Osasuna a lot there. Mallorca then hosts Real Sociedad on Sunday. Sociedad with a really tough loss in Rome in the midweek in the Europa League. Including a late goal that really is going to damage their chances of getting through. Mallorca are currently a quarter goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over unders 1 3/4, juice slightly to the over. Lean under in this one, but I'm not playing anything less than 2. I hope that it will get there. And this type of number on 2, I think I'm interested, because I think Murici is suspended for this matchup. And without him, Mallorca's offense is really, really quiet. Real Sociedad, they're going to go in and their offense has left a lot to be desired for sure. I think their defense is what they're best at and where we can kind of expect the most from them. As a road favorite, it's tough considering their run of form right now. It's not been very good. But if anything, I think I want an under 2, and I don't have that just yet. Moving next to Sevilla hosting Almeria. Sevilla, a 3/4 goal favorite at home. Over unders 2.5, juice to the over. Almeria's defense has looked really bad at times. Sevilla's offense is kind of the team that they're built for now with Jorge Sampaoli. They're not going to defend. So I got to say, I'm not really interested in an under here at all. I think if anything, I like over 2.5, which is probably music to any over bettors' ears that listen to this podcast. I don't often advocate that side or that total. Villarreal then hosts Real Betis. Currently Villarreal a half a goal favorite at home. Over 2.5, slightly juice the over. I lean to Betis getting a half and also to the under 2.5. I think Betis is probably licking their wounds quite a bit. though they didn't play their best 11 going to Manchester United. Manuel Pellegrini has been awesome at balancing multiple competitions, including winning the Copa del Rey last season, playing and getting pretty deep in the Europa League, if I remember correctly, as well as doing well in the La Liga race. I think that he's going to have a pretty good setup here. The problem is Nabil Fekir's injury does present some problems. I don't know if Sergio Canales, who's mainly their number 10, if he's available for this one to play a full match. He substituted on at Manchester United. Maybe he'll play 60 minutes or so. He's been dealing with injury, it seems. But Villarreal on the other side, they're just not a good team. They have a really poor manager, and they've given up on their club essentially in their pursuits of the Champions League. They've had a couple good wins in a row. Both have felt very fortunate. I don't think they'll get there. I don't think they're likely to get there again. I think Real Betis are a better team, and a draw on the road wins a full bet. So I'm interested in Real Betis. I also like the under 2.5. I gotta say that I don't think Villarreal's offense is much at this point. Gerard Moreno's been really their talisman. If he's in there and scoring goals, Villarreal are capable. If he's not, they're not. He's getting healthier, but it still, I think, has a lot of injury concerns, and it's literally just one step in the wrong direction. And he's out for a month or 2 months, it seems. So I just don't think Villarreal has a good manager, nor their home crowd will help, but I feel like it hasn't done much for them in recent matches, and I feel like their form is overplaying how they've actually played. So I lean to Betis and also to the under 2.5, as I don't know there's a lot of goals in this one. Nightcap on Sunday, Athletic Club Bilbao hosts Barcelona. Currently, Athletic Club only a quarter goal favorite at home right now, or excuse me, quarter goal underdog at home. Barcelona a quarter goal road favorite with a little bit more juice. Over unders 2.25, juice to the over. I think my strongest lean on this one is actually not Athletic Club. They're a great home team, and especially as an underdog at home, it doesn't happen too often. Usually only the big boys or the big clubs, the giants in La Liga. But I just don't trust Athletic Club to score. Their defense is solid, but has some leaks to it. But Barcelona ultimately, they're winning La Liga right now because of their defense. It's not because of their offense. I feel like that gets us some extra points. So the 2.25 feels a little bit low from what I was expecting. I think Barcelona is a slight road favorite, also a little bit cheaper. So I think there's some marketplace respect for Athletic Club right now, which I think is important if you're betting an underdog and ultimately expecting them to play a big role in playing in the underhitting. I think my strongest lean by far is under 2.25 in this one. I think I want more from Athletic Club just because I don't trust them to score. And if you don't score, you only at best win 0-0 and only get a half of a unit payout on a quarter goal underdog at home. So under 2.25, I think it's gonna be hard for these teams to score a bunch of goals. Moving to Monday, Girona hosts Atletico Madrid. Currently Girona a quarter goal underdog at home. Most of the juice on Atleti on the road. Over unders 2.25, juice to the over. Girona have been a good home team. I'm not going to argue against that. I'm very interested to see if this one climbs to half of a goal before it kicks off. I also lean to under 2.25 as well. Dog and under, I think, are good correlations here. I don't really trust Atleti. They've been playing a lot better. Antoine Griezmann has been a lot better. But I still think at this new kind of rebirth, after Joao Felix moved on, I think Atleti are going to go back to the Simeone style. I hope he sticks around, not because I love his brand of football. I actually like betting against it as a favorite. But they play a way that I think frustrates a lot of the best teams in Europe. And he's had such a big career that I just don't want to see it end just because they tried to start winning. They won La Liga, and that was like the worst thing that happened to him pretty much. But Girona home, they've been good. They're solid defensively. They do have a little bit more attacking, I think, than you'd expect. And I think they can give Atleti some problems. And always there's big red card risk for Atleti on the road. So that's my current interest, I think. And for my best bet for this league, I'm going to go with the Osasuna getting a quarter of a goal, not the Osasuna, Club Atletico Osasuna getting a quarter of a goal on the road at Valencia. I think you might even get a half before this kicks off. I just don't think Valencia are reliable to score, and that's really hard when you're a favorite. Moving now to Italy and Italian Serie A, we do have a Friday match. Spezia hosting Inter Milan. Currently, Spezia a 1.25 goal underdog at home. Over unders 2.75, juice to the under. Spezia are on to a third manager, I think, of the season. Luca Gotti didn't stick for long enough, which I think also their defensive plans are out the window there. They did bring in another relegation fighter, so maybe they're back on. I'm not sure. Inter do have Porto midweek on the road, I believe, in Champions League, trying to hold on to a 1-0 advantage. I think that they will go out for it pretty early, but plan to rotate. The nice part is they have a lot of depth. I think Spezia are going to try their best to keep this as low scoring as possible. So I guess I lean under 2.25, if anything. But I don't know that I trust the Spezia defense, and I feel like they can cause some problems for Inter's defense as well. Moving to Saturday, Empoli hosts Udinese. Currently, Empoli a quarter goal underdog at home with a lot of juice. Over-unders 2.5, juice to the under. Udinese simply haven't been playing very well ever since the break. I think as a road favorite, that's something I'd like to be against. I don't know necessarily that there's the same defense. New manager came in to start the season, and he's kind of pushed an offensive philosophy for Udinese, which is not something you normally see from them. Empoli they were a really good goal scoring team last year. They kind of lost a lot of those players, sold them off, or they returned on loans to their parent clubs. That's been a problem for them, but they've adjusted. And I feel like I lean to both Empoli getting a quarter of a goal and also the under 2.5. Next, Napoli hosts Atalanta with nothing in Europe, but Napoli with Eintracht Frankfurt trying to close out that second leg coming up midweek. Napoli currently a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice. Over-unders 2.75, very juice to the under, which is surprising because these are two big offenses. Atalanta does not certainly deliver the same way they had previously, but they're still a team as a big underdog. I like the idea of playing. I think I need a +1 here, and I don't have it yet. And I think I lean to over 2.75. If anything, it feels like a big total, but also one that's a little shorter than I would expect. Napoli are just so hard to go against. It's probably better to save your money and not lose it against them, I got to say. Nightcap on Saturdays, Bologna hosting Lazio. Currently, Bologna a quarter goal underdog. Very juiced right now. Over-unders 2.25, juice to the under. Bologna, their streak finally ended on Monday. I thought they played all right. They missed a couple of big chances, conceded on a questionable defensive situation. But ultimately that happens. Torino got a goal, and that was all that happened the whole match, essentially. Lazio had to play midweek in the Conference League. Went well for them, but ultimately that does zap the legs a little bit. Lazio have kind of been off the radar recently. I feel like they've been playing they were a great defense to start the year. That kind of went by the wayside. Their offense kind of has been sputtering all season with Ciro Immobile in and out of the lineup. They're a good team, though, and I feel like only getting a quarter of a goal is not enough on Bologna at home for me right now against one of the bigger clubs. And it's very juiced, potentially falling to pick 'em, which I think would be too cheap. Make me actually lean to Lazio a little bit. I think under 2.25 is not a bad idea, just because Bologna are still pretty unlikely to score, and I think Lazio defensively can keep them pretty quiet. Moving to Sunday, Lecce hosts Torino. Currently, Lecce a pick 'em right now with all the juice on Torino on the road. Over-unders 2, juice very heavily to the under. I think that's Lecce is not really likely to score goals. 2 seems really short for a total, I got to say, on this one. Torino also not, the good possession team that don't really do a lot with it. I think for the most part, I'm interested in the Lecce side, but I don't really know that I want too much to do with the pick'em that we're currently seeing, nor the 2 for a total, because it's not going to look like it gets any higher than that. Cremonese then hosts Fiorentina. Cremonese a half a goal underdog at home. Over-unders 2.5, juice to the under. A little more juice on the Fiorentina side on the road. Fiorentina had to play in Europe midweek. Cremonese are trying their best to stay in the league. It's tough to want to. I have not had a good time. I've been fading Fiorentina a lot of this season when I feel like they've been good bets, and a lot of them have not come through the way I was expecting or hoping. I think Cremo are a live dog here, but I don't know that a half of a goal is enough for me. Verona then hosts Monza. Currently, Verona a pick'em with all the juice right now, potentially climbing to a quarter of a goal. I'll be very interested if Monza get there. They're not there yet, but I feel like Monza are going to attack. Verona had a good start coming back off of the international break, or they had some good signings, but things have not gone well in the last few matches. Over-unders 2.25, juice to the under. Monza are going to attack. Verona's defense is questionable, but Verona can't really score. I think I'm most interested in Monza as a side, but at pick'em, I don't think I'm really there yet. Roma then hosts Sassuolo. Roma, a 3-quarter goal favorite, coming off that big win, especially with that late clinching goal against Real Sociedad, puts them in really good shape for leg 2 in the Basque country next Thursday. Over-unders 2.5, juice to the under. Sassuolo have been playing really well. I think with Roma with a lot of juice at home on their side, I think I'm interested if Sassuolo climb to 3/4 of the goal. It's not there yet, so I'm not really interested there. And I feel like they're an offensive team, so playing an under is a little bit problematic, especially also as a road underdog. If you don't really see it an under coming through, then that's going to be a problem as well. Roma's defense has been good. Another clean sheet against Real Sociedad, just as I've already discussed their offensive issues. But Sassuolo are going to try their best to hang in this match. I think +1 is the most interesting thing about this one if it gets there, and it's not there yet. Juve then hosts Sampdoria, coming off a good 1-0 victory over Sport Club Freiburg in the Europa League. Very tight game, had a goal ruled out for 1-1. But got the needed victory and then held on for dear life in pure Allegri style. Great for unders. And I'm interested in under here, surprisingly. But Juve, a 1.25 goal favorite, a little bit more juice at home to Sampdoria. Over-unders 2.5, juice the under. The problem with an over-under of 2.5, yeah, it feels a little bit high for a Juve match, but Sampdoria they look like they're going down, and they have no real ability offensively. Their coach ripping off their most creative attacker in the first half, Sabiri, last week, after they've been sparring quite a bit for a central defender. That's not going to go well. I don't think that went well with the crowd either. Man, I just don't see Sampdoria scoring here. The problem is if they don't score, Juve are fairly likely to score more than once themselves. That still does fit under 2.5 fairly well. But man, that's a tough one. I feel like that's the way I lean, though you're going to need a good effort from Sampdoria, and I don't feel great about them at the moment. Moving to Monday, AC Milan hosting Salernitana. Currently, Milan, a 1.75 goal favorite. Gigantic number, especially after some big celebrations from going through in London, getting a good result, a goalless draw at Tottenham. Over-unders 2.75, just the over. I'll be waiting to see if this one climbs to 3. I'm still very interested. Salernitana, I feel like, have been very solid the last couple of matches, not really scoring. Over-unders have been dead under team lately, but I guess, and actually not so true, because they did win, I think, 3-0 with a late add-on goal the week before. Salernitana has been solid. They've been playing better. They're fighting relegation as well. AC Milan at home and San Siro certainly are better, but they worked real hard at Tottenham on Tuesday, and we'll see or Wednesday, and we'll see how that impacts what their lineup looks like. Salernitana at 1.75 is very juiced right now, -120. All the juice right now on Salernitana. Maybe it falls to 1.5. It's still a bigger number than I was expecting. I think under 2.75 is also very viable at getting odds right now, and I think that probably I'll make that my best bet for Italy is the under 2.75 in Salernitana. I don't see goals in that one whatsoever, and we might get a 3 by the time this all kicks off on Monday. Now I'll move to the German Bundesliga. I got 2 leagues left. Thanks for hanging around. We got Ultimate Best Bet. Got a promo code for pregame, so please keep staying on. So moving, we have a Friday match in the Bundesliga, as always. FC Köln hosting VfL Bochum. Currently Köln a 3/4 goal favorite at home. Over-unders 2.5, juice to the over. I am not a believer in the Bochum team on the road. They've been really problematic, though I think they obviously know how many goals they've been conceding away. So I think they're going to be very defensive in this matchup. I lean, if anything, to under 2.25 in this one, as FC Köln haven't really been able to score goals ever since they got rid of Anthony Modeste to start the season when Borussia Dortmund came calling because they needed a striker after selling Erling Haaland. He hasn't taken on at Dortmund whatsoever, and I feel like Köln should get him back, but haven't heard anything about that, and the transfer windows are all over, so I guess maybe next year. Köln is a 3/4 goal favorite. Seems large at home because they are a press team. That's how they're going to score goals, from causing mistakes. Bochum are going to hoof the ball downfield the whole time as much as they can whenever they're in trouble. Long ball, long ball, long ball. I don't think it's going to lead to a lot of goals for Köln. They're going to have to create, and I don't think that's going to happen. So I like under 2.5 in that matchup. Moving to Saturday, Bayern München hosting Augsburg, coming off a really impressive performance against PSG. I mean, good for them to move through the tie, knocking out one of the bigger favorites, I think, to win the competition. Bayern, a 2.5 goal favorite at home to Augsburg. Over under is 4. Pretty juicy the over. That's a gigantic total. The push on 4. I mean, I'm interested in under 4. Augsburg have had a really good run against Bayern as well. They usually win at home, though. It's a little bit different on the road. I'm going to try to steer clear from this one, though, because I have not had a good history of betting Bayern Munich games, I got to say. Only when I bet on them, which is almost never, because they're never an underdog. Next, we'll go Eintracht Frankfurt hosting VfB Stuttgart. Currently, Frankfurt a 0.5 goal favorite at home with all the juice. Over-under is 2.5, juice to the over. Stuttgart on a team I want to back. I like to fade them as a favorite, but they're going Eintracht Frankfurt. They do have Napoli midweek. Rondo Colomwani is suspended for Champions League, so he's going to be starting. That's terrifying for Stuttgart and their defense, which just doesn't seem very good. Their manager admitted that they can't play for stalemates. They have to go out and score. So that makes me lean to over 2.5, especially because they're going to overextend themselves against the counterattack, playing right in the Eintracht Frankfurt hands. I do think Frankfurt are it's tough as a favorite to be a counterattacking team, but I think this sets up perfectly for them. So I think over, if anything, more overs on this podcast than most, I feel like. So cheers to you, over backers, if that's your type of thing. Next, I'll go to Hertha Berlin hosting Mainz. Currently, Hertha a pick 'em at home. Mainz is all the juice right now. Over-under's 2.5, juice to the over. Hertha they're fighting relegation. Things have been getting a little bit better for them recently, but not great. They're in a dogfight. Mainz have been scoring a ton of goals based on their press. I think they're going to cause a lot of problems for Hertha. I'm not interested in the home dog here. If anything, I like under 2.5, but that's really not a strong lean, I'll admit. Leipzig then host Borussia Mönchengladbach. Currently, RB Leipzig a 1.25 goal favorite at home. Over under is 3, juice to the over. Gladbach have looked really problematic. If Omlin is out as their goalkeeper, Sippel has been terrible and shouldn't be playing, really. But that's kind of what they got at this point after they sold Jan Sommer mid-season. Gladbach coming off a goalless draw with Freiburg was really surprising, but I guess that's what happens when they shut down their offense, just try to defend the whole time. I'm not sure that's actually true, but going to Leipzig, it's a really tough place to play. Leipzig are such a good home team. They do have Manchester City coming up midweek, so that's a question mark in terms of their push and what they're going to put out there, but I'm not really interested in Gladbach even getting more than a goal. If anything, I like under 3, but I feel like it could get ugly. Borussia Mönchengladbach do want to counterattack, though, and that's good to kind of restrict space. And because Leipzig just want to really quickly turn from defense to offense as quickly as possible. I feel like Daniel Falco is less likely to fall into that trap. And the under is getting odds right now, so I guess it wouldn't be the worst thing out there. Next, we'll move to Schalke hosting Borussia Dortmund. Big Revier derby. Went to the reverse fixture in Dortmund, and it was crazy. The police presence was incredible. My friend could not stop talking about it. It was great. Schalke, a 3/4 goal underdog at home, a little bit more juice. Over-unders 2 3/4, juice to the over. Dortmund, they're going to be pissed, unfortunately, after getting knocked out of Champions League, taking 1-0 lead to West London and choking it up. And really, they didn't play great. And Jude Bellingham missed a huge chance to get back to equalize on aggregate when they were down 2-0. But handball, when you have the hand away from your body, it gets struck. That's your fault. And ultimately, we're under too much pressure, didn't really try hard enough, and weren't aggressive enough, as Bellingham even said after the match. I lean to Schalke getting 3/4 of goal. I want to see a +1, I think, before I play. They quietly have been playing really well, and they've also been really restricting goals. Under 2 3/4 looks really nice to me. I feel like Dortmund defense until Chelsea had only allowed, I think, 6 goals in their 9 matches in their last 9. They had a tough first match coming out of the international or the World Cup break, but defense has been better. I think under 2 3/4 is worth a look there. Moving to Sunday, Sport Club Freiburg hosts TSG Hoffenheim. Currently, Freiburg a 0.5 goal favorite at home. A little more juice on Hoffenheim on the road. Over-unders 2.5, juice the over. Freiburg went all out at Juve in Torino and played a really competitive match. I thought the under was very deserved that I played. I thought they could have gotten a draw as well. But a goal was ruled out, unfortunately. I think rightly due to handball, but unfortunate because it was a great finish from Lucas Hola. Freiburg did use a lot of their bodies, but they're used to playing in two competitions now. They've done it for 2 seasons. It hasn't affected how they play. And they're really just they rotate. They have a lot of interchangeable parts that allows them to respond. And Hoffenheim are fighting relegation, looking like a disaster right now. So they are not a team I want to back. I don't really trust Hoffenheim to score at this point, but I feel like this could get ugly. I guess I lean, if anything, to under 2.5, just based on Freiburg coming off a tough trip to Italy. But I don't know that I feel too strongly about it. Next, we'll go Werder Bremen hosting Bayer Leverkusen. Currently, Werder a quarter goal underdog at home. All the juice on Leverkusen on the road. Over unders 3, juiced pretty heavily to the under. Leverkusen are just not a team I can play unders with because they don't care about defense. I do think that coming off Europa League midweek, they're not in a great position to back them as a road favorite. So I'm very interested in Werder Bremen, though their very efficient shot numbers and scoring numbers, I think, has shown that they're coming back down to earth and not really scoring as much. They had a good result against Bochum last weekend, but that's not a surprise. I think Werder are interesting to me, especially as a home underdog, and that's my lean for that one. Last but not least, Wolfsburg hosts Union Berlin. Big, huge goal scoring output for Union this past week in the Europa League. Very disappointing, I think. Just didn't play very well, gave up a bunch of goals that they usually don't. So I imagine there's quite a reaction to it. Though Wolfsburg are a quarter goal favorite at home. And I think it's deserved based on Union having played 2 matches. So they're used to that now. I think they had a much better year this year, balancing both Bundesliga and playing in Europe. Over unders 2.25, juice to the under. I lean to under. I feel like goalless is very possible here. I think Union are going to go on the road and going to try to restrict the Wolfsburg offense as much as they can. Forever, I will lean to Union as an underdog because I think they just outperform the market expectations always. But I think under 2.25 is probably the most intelligent for this one, as I just feel like it's going to be hard. I don't know that Union are going to contribute a ton to scoring in this one. I think Wolfsburg's offense is really problematic. I think they've been a good side because they have, like, I think Ridley Baku is still leading their goal scoring as like a right back or right wing back. That's not good when you need to score 3 goals in a match to beat me. So for my best bet for Germany, I'm going to go and I'm going to stick with that Union. I'm sure will be very, very chiseled defensively after a pretty poor performance midweek. And I don't see a lot of goals. So I'll go under 2.25 in the Union visiting Wolfsburg match. It's my best bet for Germany. Okay, so now we're moving to France. It's the last league we're going to come through. We're going to give a promo code for pregame and then also make an ultimate best bet selection. Friday, we have Lille hosting Lyon. Currently, Lille a half a goal favorite right now. Over unders 2.75, juice the over. 2 offensive teams, so I can't say I really lean to under, but it's a big number for Lille to lay. I think if Lille were a half a goal underdog on the road at Lyon, I'd like that quite a bit. And so I guess that means I like Lyon a little bit less, but a half of a goal for Lille just seems like too big of a number, I gotta say. Moving to Saturday, of Angers hosted in Rennes. Angers are playing really well lately. Currently, Angers a half a goal underdog at home with a lot of juice, or all the juice. Over unders 2.5, juice to the under. Rennes have been a really bad road team. Have to admit that. I feel like any match with Rennes, it's hard to trust it to be low scoring, though I think if anything, I lean to under 2.5 as well. I think Angers are not a pretty side, and they're trying their best to get out of the relegation fight. I don't know that they will, but they've been playing well lately, and Rennes have been really bad on the road. I've been playing a ton of matches coming off Marseille last weekend. I mean, it's not a great spot for Rennes, especially on the road where they've had a lot of troubles, and they're a really young side. Stade Brestois then hosts PSG, the nightcap on Saturday. Brest, a 1.25 goal underdog. Over under is 3. Brest are a competitive team. They are an underdog every week, it seems. And I feel like 1.25 almost feels a little small to me against PSG. PSG did play against Bayern and got crashed out of the Champions League midweek. Normally, you'd think that'd motivate a team, make someone angry, but hard to say that that's the case with PSG because they are about as impossible to understand motivation-wise as anybody. Seeing an over-under 3 is pretty low for them. I wonder if there's going to be some substitutions and some rotation in their side as they try to gear up for Liga and that title, because that's all they have to play for now because they're out of the Coupe de France as well. Stade Brestois have not been great in this competition with PSG in the past, but I feel like a lot of that's been really not their fault. They've been, and I also confuse Brest with Reims a lot. I got to say, because they look like the same teams, both red and white in France, low budget, blah, blah, blah. But lean to Sabresois getting a goal in a quarter from PSG, and wouldn't be shocked if that climbed higher if the Messi and Mbappe's are in the lineup. Moving to Sunday, Clermont Foot hosts Racing Club de Lens. Clermont, a half a goal underdog at home. All the juice on Lens on the road. Over unders 2.25. The juice a little bit more to the under. I don't necessarily believe in the Lens offense at this point. I feel like they're going to always be attacking, but it hasn't led to a lot of goals. And I don't really think that starts here. Clermont Foot have not been able to score whatsoever, so I lean to under 2.25, if anything. Angers then hosts Toulouse. Angers, a half a goal underdog at home. Over unders 2.75. Juice the under. A little more juice on, or a lot more juice on Angers at home. Toulouse, the Ligue champions. Crazy to see them a half a goal favorite to Angers, but the Liga market has basically left Angers behind because they're bottom of the league and look like they're going down. And it's hard to trust them to hang in anything. They were a favorite for a lot of this season, and I was betting against them just blindly, essentially. But don't have that option here and don't really want to touch them. Nantes then hosts Nice. Currently Nantes a pick 'em right now. All the juice on Nice on the road, who did play midweek in one of the competitions, I think the Conference League. Over under is 2.25. Juice the under. Nice have been scoring a fair amount, so I don't know that there's as much interest here, especially in a very juiced under 2.25. I like Nantes. I need to see that their lineup's getting healthier because they unfortunately use a lot of they were run on an empty for the Juventus Europa League knockout stage, and unfortunately I feel like that's going to impact them quite a bit going forward. They played PSG really tight last week, came back from 2-0 to equalize, but then lost 4-2, didn't even cover the spread, so hard to trust them at the moment. Football Club Lorient then hosts Troyes. Currently Lorient a 3/4 goal favorite right now. Over under is 2.75. Juice to the under. A little more juice on Troyes on the road. Bigger than I made it. Market has not liked Lorient this season, but Estac Troyes are a really problematic defense. I think if anything, I need to get a full +1 to want to play. Very high total, 2.75 for a Lorient match. So if anything, I think I like under 2.75 in that one, but it's very juiced, and there's a lot of problems in that Estac Troyes defense. Ajaccio then hosts Montpellier, currently a pick 'em. Montpellier with all the juice right now on the road. That is something I don't agree with. I'm very interested in Ajaccio. I want to see them climb to a quarter before I play it. Don't really like unders, unfortunately, with Montpellier because I don't trust them to defend, but I do feel like a team that doesn't defend that goes on the road as a favorite is something you want to be against. So Ajaccio at Pick'em are interesting to me right now. Monaco then hosts Reims. Currently Monaco a half a goal favorite, very juiced at home right now. Over unders 2.75, juiced slightly to the under. Stade de Reims have been awesome. Will still, I mean, what a manager, what a find. Still paying 20,000 euro fine every week because he's not registered, I don't think, as a coach just yet. He didn't do his books or whatever you call it. Reims have been awesome. They got a big test though going to Monaco because unfortunately Monaco can score goals, and even if this one climbs to 3/4 of a goal, you're still losing on a single goal loss. I feel like the numbers is pretty tight to back Reims, but if you like them, I don't blame you because they've been so good ever since Will Still took charge. Last but not least, the nightcap Marseille hosts Strasbourg. Currently Marseille a 1.25 goal favorite, a little bit more juice. Over under is 2.75, slightly juiced the under. Marseille have been really good on the road. They've been picking up a ton of points, but that crowd home atmosphere is huge and can lead to some lopsided matches. Strasbourg started the year in the relegation zone for a long, long time. Changed managers, have been better under Antonetti, if I'm not mistaken. Still wonder about their goal scoring. And Antonetti, with his Mets days, was always on the attack. Even when it didn't make sense to be. And I credit him for that because they played well in a lot of the big matches, like against PSG. I think they got a win, all that sort of stuff. I think kept them in the league one season, but eventually Mets did go down. And Antonetti is now managing another team, another club. I do think Strasbourg can hang here, though. I lean to that 1.25 goals is above a goal, and I guess also to the under 2.75. But fading Marseille on the road seems pretty scary, I will admit. And I don't know necessarily that I feel too great about that. Though it's a big number for Marseille to lay. They certainly have not been doing great, crashing out of the Coupe de France to a lower league team. I don't think that's really a great situation to go into, especially considering how angry the Marseille fan base gets. But that is, I guess, how it goes. And so I think my best bet for Ligue 1 for this week will be Alger getting half of a goal from Stade Rennais. Rennes' road woes have been significant, and I feel like that total on the team that's been playing well is music to my ears. So now we've reached the end of the show, but stick around for my ultimate best bet. Also, please use the promo code Corner20 for 20% off for all listeners of the soccer podcast. Good at pregame.com for anyone that's putting picks up there, or merchandise or anything you're looking for. I'm trying to get my picks out overnight. They are locked in. College basketball, soccer, big time of the year for college hoops, with conference tournaments going down. Also, might as well mention my Patreon, which is a nightly episode that I'm putting out going over all my leans for the next day. It's a much more affordable way to do it than pregame, but a little bit more informal. I'll put it that way also, because it's really kind of going over what I expect to play the next day, whereas pregame.com or the final decision makings of what's going in there and what's being put in. So check out pregame.com, Corner20, CORNER, corner like a corner kick, 20, get 20% off for anything on the site. You of course buy from other handicappers there as well. And don't forget my Patreon, and there's a link on my Twitter, I think, as we speak, that's up there, and would love to get more of a following on there. So come on in, get your exclusive podcast overnight, and you'll probably enjoy those, or hopefully you will. So we've made it now. This is Betting the Pitch, episode number 176 with the _G Warner on Twitter and on Instagram. For my best bets for the top 5 European soccer leagues, I like Nottingham Forest under 2.5 in England. I like Osasuna getting a quarter of a goal in Spain. I like Salernitana under 2 3/4 in Italy. I like Football Club Union Berlin under 2.25 in Germany, and last but not least, Alger, a half a goal underdog in Liga in France. I'm going to play Alger plus 1/2 goal as my best bet, or ultimate best bet for this episode. I feel like Stade Rennais, a really young team that have a ton of talent, but have really struggled on the road. I don't see that changing here. I think Alger are fighting like heck to stay out of the relegation zone, and they've been really good. Things have been going well. The crowd will be big behind them, and I think it's a big test for a young Rennes team that haven't really passed any tests recently. So take Alger plus 1/2 as the _G Warner's best bet for this episode, Betting the Pitch number 176. So that'll do it for this episode. Thanks everyone for coming along, whether on YouTube. Please hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Please leave a 5-star review. I would really appreciate it. I'll even read any questions you got on there that you want to throw in the review. I'll happy to put it on next week's episode or whenever I see it. Stay tuned on Twitter. Should be a ton of plays coming out. College hoops, soccer, all this stuff coming this weekend. Also trying to get into baseball, but that is a little bit lower down the totem pole of interest at this point. Also feel free to slide in the DMs or hit me up, send me an at me on Twitter. And that's probably the best place to get in touch with me. Thanks for the support as always. And I will talk to you all soon.